What's up, guys? This is Justin, justinattraction.com. I'm here with my friend DJ Aim, who is a legit certified New York City playboy, if ever there was one. How you doing?
I'm good. How's everybody doing out there?
So we're here in a beautiful summer day in the middle of New York City. Nice park here in the middle of town. And just want to get some of your thoughts about dating in New York, dating East Asian women, and a few other topics
Absolutely.
as well. Yeah,
Fire away.
So first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself. You work in music, right?
I'm a music producer, composer. Always been in music. Been in New York about 15 years. Came here to do music and to meet beautiful women. And yes, I do produce tracks for TV, do songwriting types of things, score films, teach a class.
Yeah. Overall impressions of women in New York City and dating in New York City.
Wow. Well, I think I've been to pretty much every major city in the world, and I would say the hottest girls are definitely here in New York. And so it's a little bit subjective, but to me, it's there's so many girls in this town that have the total package. You see them walking around. It's the way they dress, the way they take care of themselves. They have just a certain intelligence. They have a certain presence. A lot of them are, very independent, successful at what they do, which is, to me, all very attractive qualities, but present a certain type of a challenge.
Yeah.
Versus women say that maybe in one category, maybe they're really cute, or maybe they're really sexy, or maybe, not so emotionally mature, but when you get a woman that's like really got it in every category, you just really have to step up your game.
Yeah.
You really do. She's just not going to be interested. A girl like that in this town has many, many options.
Yeah.
She's got options through her social circle. She's got options through her work.
Right.
Probably through her family.
And the other thing is, here in New York, you have some of the most powerful men in the world, some of the richest men in the world, some of the most interesting men in the world, celebrities,
That's right.
Actors, guys in music, entertainment, different kinds of characters. So there's competition as far as dating, right?
Yeah, definitely. You can't focus too much on the competition.
But it's there. It's kind of like always in the background.
It's in the background. You sense it. You sense it with some women. You talk to them. You can't help but wonder, how many guys have approached them on that given day. How many guys they're seeing. You basically just got to focus on you being as stepping up your game as much as you possibly can. And then you got to assume that there's certain women that you're just going to vibe with, and hopefully it goes beyond all that. Hopefully, if you're if you know what you're doing and you're in the right state of mind and you just click in a certain way, she just likes you.
Yeah.
She gets a good vibe. She gets a good feeling. She's like, she thinks you're fun. She thinks this would be a cool guy to hang out with.
Yeah.
Because she's not going to waste her time. She's definitely not going to waste a Friday or a Saturday night with some marginal guy that she's like, well, I don't know, he was nice, but he was dressed a little funny, or, the conversation kind of died, or this, or he, something about him felt a little bit wrong. She's probably not going to, she might even give you her number,
Right.
She kind of liked you, but when it comes right down to it, it's probably not going to happen. It's probably not going to turn into a date, unless you really can make some sort of an impression.
Yeah.
She's got to really like you.
Yeah, you have to be your personal best, and which is a good thing because New York in general is a challenging city.
Right.
Not just when it comes to dating and women, but when it comes to career when it comes to financial situation,
Yeah.
fitness.
It all works
you know.
together. It definitely all works together. And it's part of it has to do with what your goals are and what state you're at in your life. Like maybe you're a fun guy, you're a cool looking guy, maybe you don't know what's going on in your career right now. Maybe you don't got a lot of money right now. Well, you certainly shouldn't just disqualify yourself, and say, oh, well, I can't compete because, I'm not a Wall Street guy, or I'm not, on the front page of magazines, or showing up in blogs, You definitely still got to go for it, And, my feeling is that no matter what and no matter where you are, if you are doing a lot of approaching, a lot of contacting women, a lot of going to events, and you're staying active, then a certain percentage of those girls are just going to be into you. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
And whether that goes further than a couple of dates or a fling, that remains to be seen.
Right.
But I think you do have to, and I see this, because I've been doing some coaching myself, Justin. I know you coach a lot of guys, and guys resist making pickup a part of their daily life. They don't feel like it. It's just that simple. I don't feel like it. Not today. So my feeling is comes down to just doing this consistently and doing it every day.
Yeah.
And then you're warmed up, and then you're in the right state of mind, and your odds are going to go up drastically.
Yeah, making it a part of your lifestyle.
Yes.
Basically, like part of your daily routine. If you're just out and just in the course of your daily routine, getting a coffee or getting a sandwich for lunch or something, you talk to a few people here or there, talk to a few girls here or there. Just by doing that, say you talk to like 2 girls every day, which is totally doable.
Absolutely.
In a city this big and this dense, where there's just such a high population. At the end of the month, you've already approached 60 women. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the advantage to New York. The big advantage to New York is that it's a street life kind of a town.
Yeah.
As opposed to a place like LA, which basically it's just not that many areas to really walk around in LA. It's pretty limited. New York, everybody is out. People are out. People are, you're meeting people on the subways. LA, you're probably not taking a subway. So you've got a high density of beautiful women everywhere, sitting in a Starbucks, being in Union Square Park where we are now. So the opportunities are definitely there.
Right.
That's the advantage of it.
Yeah. So there's it's fair to say that there's costs and benefits.
Yes.
Everything in life, right, has costs and benefits. So you have a lot more access, to like women with model good looks,
right,
in a city like New York, that you wouldn't have necessarily in a place like LA, where everything is more spread out, people are more segregated. But at the same time, it also means you have to step up your game, and there's more competition, right, because other guys have the same access that you do, right?
Right.
So
that's true, but if you're willing to be, if you're willing to get so that your comfort zone is that you'll just talk to any woman, you don't care. You'll talk to her and you're comfortable doing it. That's going to shoot you probably up in the 90th plus percentile. Because they're really, even a lot of really successful guys are terrified of doing that.
Yeah.
They are terrified, or they're in an event, and I go to events and I see guys, they're well dressed, they got the gold watches, and they're standing there like deer in the headlights. They don't know what to say. So if you can be the guy that is comfortable in all circumstances, just simply having a conversation and having fun, talking to women. And then, of course, you get into the fine points of creating attraction, how to really, get her turned on and all that. But even just meeting women, just getting phone numbers and dates.
That alone will totally transform.
Yes, it will.
I always say, like, probably 90%, when I work with clients, coaching clients, probably 90% of what we do is just number one, approaching, and number two, basic conversation.
Right.
You know, that's 90% of the material that we actually talk about. We don't even talk very much about, you know, sexual innuendo or like really hard teasing or flirting or stuff like
Right.
that. Like 90% of the issue is just putting yourself out there, you know, dressing well, looking good,
Right.
And just walking up to girls and being able to have a conversation and just ask her out, you know, simple as that. And if you do, it's like you said, you do that enough times, eventually you're going to get results.
Well, the other thing that does, there's, in terms of meeting women, you know, there's pickup. Okay, so pickup is basically, it's random women you've got no particular connection to other than you're both in the same physical place at the same time.
Right.
That's your connection.
Right.
Of course, once you start talking, maybe you can find some commonality or maybe you can find some people in common, maybe. But so in that situation, if you have the ability to comfortably talk to any women, it is super, super powerful. You know, in so many ways. In so many ways.
Absolutely.
Your confidence level goes up. It definitely bleeds into other areas of your life. You just feel better walking around.
So how did you get to that point? Were you always like that? Were you always like a very social guy talking to everybody, or is that something that you had to work on?
No, I've definitely, tended to be a more introverted type of a guy in many situations. But for some reason, when it comes to women, I felt like I always had some ability to be charming with a woman that I was attracted to. Even when I was a kid, I felt like I had that. But it was very hit or miss. Very hit or miss. And sometimes I would just get out of the habit. I would get out of practice, and I would be one of those guys that was just terrified to talk to a beautiful woman. And I can still be that way. If I'm in a state of mind and a couple days have gone by, I can still feel like, oh, I can't talk to her.
Yeah.
But it doesn't last for very long.
Right. I mean, you know, there's the myth that like if you're a player or you're like a real hustler or whatever, like you're just always on or something.
Right.
You know, I mean, you're human. You know what I mean? You go through phases or whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just like the general aura, the general energy that you have is more sexual, it's more seductive, it's more social than it otherwise would be. And a lot of that comes from experience, you know, just kind of getting out there, talking to girls over and over the course of your life, you know.
Well, and you start to, you know, if you really wanted to get into a little bit of the psychology of it, I think part of the resistance that guys have is a lot of bad experiences approaching women and feeling, oh, I sucked, or you just got really dissed, you know, trying to do that.
Right.
It's not pleasant, you know, so you have a lot of bad associations which cause you to feel, it just creates a bad feeling when you think about it.
Yeah.
You know? But as soon as you start to have positive experiences, that really starts to turn around. So that for me, and it's really been in the last 2 or 3 years, is that I've approached hundreds of women, you know, hundreds and hundreds in the last several years, and I've had mostly positive experiences with it.
Yeah.
So I have the feeling when I walk up, if I see a woman, maybe she's leaning up against the building, she's sitting on some steps, she's staring at her phone, my feeling is she's going to enjoy talking to me most of the time. When I really decide, when I'm not tentative, when I say, okay, I'm going to go over and talk to this girl, my basic feeling in my body is this is going to be good. She's going to enjoy talking to me.
Right.
And definitely did not used to be that way until I started doing a lot of concentrated and consistent pickup.
Yeah. No.
That's the biggest change for me.
You've dated a lot of women that were younger than you.
Yes. It's hard not to.
Yeah. This is a big issue, big topic, because a lot of guys, you know, that are older, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, are interested in younger women for different kinds of relationships, sometimes short-term, sometimes long-term. Now, I'm curious what your philosophy is on that, like what your thoughts are on that, because, you know, in your case, when I first met you, I didn't know how old you were. You know, I figured you probably maybe in your 40s or something. You know, just by the way you look very fit. You're in the gym all the time. You lead a very healthy lifestyle. So you don't come across, and you have like young energy, right? I mean, you come across as a guy who can relate to an attractive young woman. You know, in a real way. And a lot of other guys that are kind of, in that age range, they simply don't.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, most guys that have been through a few life cycles like myself, married, divorced, whatever, you come out the other side. I'll just say I'm pretty far north of 50. That's about as far as I'll go for our purposes. But most people tell me I look a lot younger. And yeah, part of it is just my general energy and attitude. I definitely, gym is huge. I'm not a total workout Nazi, but I'm there every other day for about an hour and a half. And it makes an enormous difference in how I feel, and definitely I think in my attractiveness. So definitely, and I'm a musician, so I tend to dress a little more on the trendy side anyway. I'm kind of focused in on how you dress. I see some guys that are in their 40s, but they dress, oh my God,
Yeah.
Like, oh dude, how can you be wearing that suit with these big baggy pleated pants and this, jacket that's
Right.
way too big, and it's just shoes that are like from the golf course,
Right,
that type
right.
of like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's so dated and makes you look so old. You don't need to do that.
Yeah.
But sometimes dating younger women is like a be careful what you wish for situation. Because I've had experiences over the last few years of dating women close to 1/3 of my age.
Right.
Forget half.
Right.
I've dated, extended. I had girlfriends in their early 20s. And which is in many, many ways awesome. I love going around with them. I love the feeling that guys are looking at me saying, what the fuck, how is this guy doing it? I definitely love the ego part of it.
Right. It's a little bit of an ego boost.
I love being with the beautiful younger women, But those girls, most of them are not really thinking too much about long term, a lot of them, It's actually easier for me to date a girl who's 22, 23, 24 than to date someone in her early 30s. Because the early 20s girl is not thinking about marriage materials so much. She wants to have fun. She wants to be with a guy who knows how to take care of her, who she's attracted to, and that's about it.
Yeah.
But if you can be that guy, if you can be the fun guy that knows cool places to go, knows how to make her have fun, make her smile, take her dancing, show her a good time. Those are things that you can use on any girl at any age, for sure.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. Another thing with you is that, your relationships and your interactions with younger women, it's there's a lot of value there. It's not about taking. You're not taking anything from anybody. And this is something that I find there's a good contingent of guys in that age range that are interested in younger women, but they're interested in it, for some kind of ego thing. They're interested, like it's really a reflection on their pride,
Right.
At a deep level, as opposed to just pure desire,
Right.
which is the sense that I really get from you most of the time. Obviously everybody enjoys having a beautiful
Yeah.
woman on their arm, it's a little bit of an ego boost, whatever, but fundamentally it's about desire, right? And it's like, I desire you, you desire me, kind of thing, and that's the vibe that I think you can kind of generate so well in your interactions with younger women. So it's not like you don't run the risk of a gold digger situation, right? Or becoming like a sugar daddy, even though you're very well off. You could certainly fall into that trap easily. But it's a very, it's a man-woman thing, but it's...
Well, that's always there, there's a gold digger, and then there's simply a woman that likes to be taken care of. So there's extremes.
Right.
And you definitely, open yourself up to that, dating a younger woman. That is a possibility. And honestly, I feel like that's part of why a younger woman wants to date an older guy, is she does like that feeling of being taken care of. But younger women that I've taken care of, I've gone out with, it's not like I'm taking them to Madison Avenue and buying them $1,000 outfits.
Right.
We'll go around and we'll we'll walk in H&M and I'll spend, you know, $30 or $40. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
and they like it.
Right.
They like it. So.
And it's not like you couldn't afford
Right.
the more expensive stuff, right? It's a
Well,
choice
I couldn't
that you're
afford
making.
it every day, but
Right.
you know, and if she was serious girlfriend, then yeah, I mean, those gifts are a part of it.
Right. But you know, that would be the same thing with like a 20-something guy and a 20-something girl. I mean, if you're in a
Right.
long-term relationship with
That's right.
somebody, you know, you're going to do things for them, you know?
Right. I think that you've got to match their energy. You know, it's in some way, if you want to go out with a younger woman, you have to be a match for the way they think, the types of things that they enjoy doing, and just to be able to relate to them, to just their energy level. I happen to be pretty immature for my age.
Right.
I mean,
right.
I like a girl that's kind of light, you know, that smiles a lot, and it's, you know, I like to play. I'd like to be very playful.
Yeah.
I just do. I enjoy that. I think it's a fun way of relating. You know, it's very tiresome when you're with somebody and you're having that serious relationship-y. So what was your last relationship like? And it gets all psychological and it's all serious. It's like, oh, please, you know.
Yeah.
Oh. So for me, I like it when it's, what do you have? You have today. You're out with someone. That's it. All you've got today, you've got now, you've got this date. So let's enjoy it. Enjoy the city. Go here, go there. Be impulsive. Say, hey, let's do this. Did you ever go to this restaurant? Did you ever see this part of town? You know, be more sort of, not to the point of being scattered, but be willing to be a little more sort of young, impulsive in how you go about your dates.
Right. And yeah, like looking at it as an adventure.
Yeah.
As
exactly.
opposed to like a traditional sit down, let's get to know
Right.
each other kind of thing. Like instead of let's get to know each other, let's have an experience together.
Right.
You know?
That's it in a nutshell. That's it in a nutshell. You know, is that you? And I think a lot of guys get into this thing, and I see certain women bring it out of me more than others, maybe. But you know, you sort of go into this dating mode of you are going to be. It's like you automatically try and do the things that you think are going to impress her. You're going to say the things that you think are going to make her like you, even if you don't like her. Like I've been out with women and it's like, I'm not that interested, but I still sometimes when I fall into that, I feel compelled to want to make an impression. When I think about it, it's like, who really gives a shit? Why am I doing this? You know, why am I sort of dropping things about my work or my finances or
Yeah,
people
like
I
hinting
know,
at things that
hinting at things.
kind of like a subtle brag type of thing.
Yeah, you go down that road, and they pick up on it right away.
Yeah.
And it's never attractive.
Yeah.
It's never attractive to a woman. They know why you're doing it.
I mean, it'll be attractive to a gold digger. I mean, it'll be,
Yeah.
you know, to that kind of a woman, but to a woman who's interested in having fun or whatever, definitely not.
Right.
Yeah.
You really got to, particularly if you're an older guy, and most guys that have been around are accomplished in a certain way, you're going to want to tend to play that card. Because you in your mind, you can feel, well, that's what I have going for me over a younger guy, because I'm more accomplished, maybe I'm better off financially, I'm more experienced. But honestly, if you play those cards in the wrong way, you're going to seem old and boring. And she's going to think she's talking to her father or her uncle.
Right, right.
And she'll be impressed, but not the way you want her to be.
Right.
So you got to really avoid relating to her in that way. That's a trap.
Yeah.
Whether she's same age or younger, that's a trap. Said I'm going to try and make you like me. I'm going to try and impress you. That whole thing.
Yeah.
That whole thing. Like, you know, what you just said about making it into an experience. That's really the bottom line. You got to give her an experience. You got to give her an experience.
That's when it's more enjoyable for you too.
Absolutely.
You know, because I mean, if the whole thing is work, it's like a chore. You know, it's like, what the hell is the point of that? You know, like, the whole purpose here is to have fun and to enjoy being with a woman. You know, enjoy that feminine energy, enjoy the seduction. You know, enjoy the dance. But if it's a chore, Like I have to do step 1, step 2, step 3 or something.
Well, we're all like, guys have the thing, most guys have a thing about doing it right. We want to be doing it right. Because what happens if we don't do it right? We get shit or we get criticized if we're not doing it right. We're all used to that from a woman, particularly a woman with a strong personality. She gives us shit if we didn't do it right. Mm-hmm. So we don't want that. So we're going about whether it's a relationship or whether it's just a date, we're structuring the date because, we want to be the guy who does it right. But there's a little bit of a problem with that. It's very constricting. Rather than thinking about doing it right, yes, put some planning into it, but from the standpoint of something that's going to be fun, something where you're going to feel a sense of freedom, where you're going to feel that the date offers a chance to be very interactive with her, to get physically close with her, to be physically playful with her, and give yourselves lots of options. If one place isn't vibing, then you can go to another place. It might be.
Yeah, absolutely. Do women ask you if you approach a younger girl? Do they ask you how old you are?
They don't usually. Usually they don't. Usually we have a conversation. If I feel that I'm interested, I'll ask for the phone number. If I get the phone number, of course, I'll try and get the date to happen. Then the date happens, and that's the tricky part as far as age, because particularly for me, I do look a lot younger than I am. So it can be a little tricky for me. Some girls are going to handle it well when I tell them my age, and it's a big age gap. They'll always pretend that it's not a big deal, but I can kind of see that something just clicked when I said my age,
right.
And it's just, I might as well just take them home right now. Just some girls, it freaks them out.
Right.
The number freaks them out.
So how do you handle that?
Not well. I just, basically try and, I'll either try and be light about it, or, the best thing is to just try and keep it in the back burner. Sometimes I won't answer. I won't give them a straight answer right away. I'll just give them some absurd answer. I'll say, I'm 1,000 years old, or I'll tell you at the end of the date.
Right.
So I'll tell you at the end of the date. And the end of the day comes, and
yeah,
maybe I haven't told them, but
if they really care,
yeah.
Most of the time they don't really care that much. At the end, if they're having a good time with you, right. It's something that maybe she's curious about, right. Or whatever. But it's really, at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. It's like if you're interacting with a beautiful woman and she's beautiful and you're looking at her, do you really care about her age or whether she's 27 versus 29? She's beautiful, she's hot, she's into you. What difference does it make?
A lot of it really depends on what she's looking for in her life at that moment. Just one thing I will say that's super important is to not make assumptions about how a girl is going to react, because you just really never know.
Have you seen a lot of variety in terms of women's reactions?
I have. I've seen a lot of variety. I've seen some women, I don't know if they got off on so much of the age difference, but they like being with a guy that makes them feel a sense of safety, or a sense of knows his way around the world, knows his way around the city.
Yeah.
That's a good feeling for them. When they're on your arm, they like that feeling of a little bit of, protection is the word, but they just, as opposed to some of the guys they're dating that might be sort of their energy is, and their thinking is a little schizophrenic.
Right.
Up, down, hot, cold, over here, over there. So for a girl to be with a guy is who he is, comfortable in his own skin, knows what he's doing, has a plan that happens to be a fun plan, she can relax, that's very appealing for a girl.
Yeah,
and a lot of younger guys just don't have that.
Yeah,
they don't have that together, that part of it. So if you do, And you can do it in a non-boring, non-controlling, which is huge. That's another thing that older guys will fall into. They want to be the all-knowing, all-controlling guy who's going to suddenly start giving them advice on their life, and so again, that's a trap.
That's getting into like the father territory, the uncle territory. Yeah.
But yes, you do want to be the guy that has a plan. You do want to be the guy that knows where cool places are, that has surprises, has nice things she didn't know about you, cool places she'd never heard about. You definitely want to be that guy.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of really good points there. Now, you enjoy dating women of a certain ethnic background.
Yes. You know that about me. In fact, everyone that I know pretty much knows that about me.
So we're talking about East Asian women specifically. It's not a lifelong thing. You were actually married to a white woman.
Yeah.
And you had children. One child or
one son.
One son with her. But you made the switch to mostly exclusively, basically, right? Dating East Asian women.
Yeah, pretty much.
And when I say East Asian, most people say Asian. I prefer East Asian because it's more precise.
Okay.
But we're talking Japanese, Chinese, Korean primarily, and then also Thai, Filipino, Taiwanese.
Yeah.
Why did you make that switch?
Well,
and that was a while ago, right? It was a number of years ago.
I think, it was probably almost 10 years ago. And I had a girlfriend that was half Chinese, half Japanese. And there was just something there. I can't even really explain it with her. But it was very hot. I felt like the fact that our brains work differently was very appealing to me. The fact that the way she looks, part of it is strictly looks, okay? So I'm thin, so I like thin women. So in general, Asian women are thinner. They have very smooth skin. They don't have to shave anything, which I love. A lot of them are probably less afraid to be kind of feminine and girly and a little more passive is not really the word, but let me contrast it with a lot of American women that are fiercely independent, that are really in competition with the guy, that aren't going to let, it's almost a cynical sort of attitude about guys, or they've got to control things, and they've got to be the guy. That does not appeal to me. And I think for a lot of Asian women, it comes naturally for them to let the guy lead a little bit more.
Yeah.
But basically, I just love the way they look more than anything. I love the way they look. I love the skin. I love the bodies. I love the eyes. I love they're just very sexy to me.
When you're approaching an Asian woman, the energy is different, would you say, than versus a white woman or women of other races? Is there more of that masculine, feminine polarity?
I would say there is, but I would also give a qualifier, which is that with American-born Asian girls, very often, for want of a better word, the damage has been done. They're pretty Americanized, and they can even be more difficult because they have that sort of independence that an American girl has, but then sometimes they've got that sort of conservative, traditional thing that some Asian families have. So you're sort of getting through that. But if you're approaching a girl who's from Japan, from Korea, from Thailand, she's been here for a short time or even a couple of years, if she grew up there, then then I feel like it's a little easier.
Yeah, I think you're crazy personally, because I have no racial preferences myself. I've dated women of all backgrounds, my whole philosophy is always like look for the best in everything, and then take what you like and leave what you don't.
Right.
I think there's a lot of American-born girls, born and raised, that are amazing. You know, yeah. In general, American people are more independent than other people in the world, and it's that can be attractive. You know, a girl who's independent, knows what she wants. You know, willing to take a little bit more initiative. I think that's great. I can enjoy that personally. You know?
Well, honestly, and part of it is, and I'm not going to say that what I feel is true for me is even the truth. But it's the way I experience it.
Right.
Which is, as an older guy dating a younger woman, I feel that most Asian women from Asia are a little more open to the idea of being with an older guy. It's less of a thing for them. It happens a lot more. It's more of a normal thing in their culture. I'm not saying it never happens here, but I feel it's a little bit more normal.
Right. Yeah, there are cultural differences.
Yeah.
You know, from country to country, no question about that. Speaking of which, I was talking to this Japanese girl the other day, coffee shop. Just started chatting with her. Very cute. She's probably 26 or 27. Mm-hmm. And I saw her at one point talking on the phone. She was doing like a video chat on her phone.
Yeah.
With a guy, and after she was done, I asked her, by the way, was that your dad? She's like, no, that's my boyfriend. And the guy, it turns out the guy's like 40-something. You know, I mean, culturally, I definitely hear that. Obviously, we mentioned that you date a lot of women outside your race, and what's been your experience with that, with interracial dating in general? Is it, there's obvious positives. I would be a personal example of a positive because I'm the product of an interracial marriage myself. But there's also negatives that are well documented. People having a tough time getting along with each other's cultures or families and stuff.
Yeah.
Has that been something you've seen?
Well, I mean, it depends on at what level. If you're talking about just dating or a relationship. Obviously, It's very different when it's a meet the parents kind of situation. Other things come into play for sure. And language, of course. I would say that for me, one of the biggest challenges, since I have tended to date girls that are from Japan, from Thailand, generally pretty good English, but not like it's going to be if you grew up in this country. So that's a little, I don't know if that's sort of in line with what you were asking, because that's not only interracial, but that's language.
Yeah, definitely.
So the language factor, although they are connected, because you got language and you got culture. And so what that means is that there's a lot of things that are given in terms of the way you're used to communicating, whether it's some TV show you watched when you were 8 years old.
Like a lot of references.
Cultural. I mean, in America, we talk constantly in cultural references. We talk just about celebrities, hair metal bands, TV shows,
right.
movies, movie stars, and celebrities that everybody knows if you grew up in this country. Well, a lot of people that grew up in other countries don't know any of that. So you've got to be, I would say in general, the combination of modifying the things that you talk about. Mm-hmm. You can't just automatically, because you can't say things and she doesn't know what you just said. You just got to be more patient. You got to be willing to explain and make it fun.
Yeah.
Without falling into the trap of being her teacher.
Right.
So that's the challenge.
Right.
That's the challenge. If you're explaining your language, your culture, whatever it is, to another girl, a girl who's not familiar, then you got to explain it in a way that's interactive, that's fun, and that's playful, where you're not you don't get turned into her cultural. It's not your job. You're not giving her advice.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, in New York especially.
Yeah.
In a place like New York, you're constantly meeting people from all around the world. It's a very diverse city. Foreign people that are not born in America, or people from other areas of America. And there's also an aspect, I think, of not kind of talking down to her, which is something that a trap that a lot of people fall into.
Right.
somebody's foreign, you talk down to them.
Right.
You treat them a little bit like a kid or something.
Right.
Because they have the knowledge of the culture that a child does, or they have the language skills of a child, right?
They may even present themselves that way. You know, if they're unfamiliar, they may sort of be slightly in awe of you. If they're here, if they're in New York City, which is kind of an overwhelming place to begin with, and you're American, plus you're a New Yorker, and if they're relatively new to this city, they will sort of put you up there. But you don't want to stay up there. Mm-hmm. You know, you don't want to be, because again, you fall into that trap of being sort of more of a father-like. It's very unsexy.
Right.
It's just not sexy to be that guy.
So how do you communicate that sexual vibe when you are meeting a woman, you know, in the first conversation, or when you're out on a date? How do you eliminate that problem of like, oh, you might fall in the friend trap or the cultural mentor or whatever? How do you establish yourself as a sexual presence?
I think if you can be someone, well, obviously physical touching is big.
That's something that's universal.
That's universal. If you can get physical in some way with a girl. But the other thing is there's a lot of cultural norms around that. Like there are, for example, some Japanese girls. I dated a Japanese girl. We had 3 dates, and I wasn't getting anywhere. She basically said, no kiss until the 5th date. I finally got it out of her on the 3rd date. It just wasn't gonna, she stuck by it. She was serious, no kiss until the 5th date. I don't even want to wonder when it is that I'm finally gonna get to sleep with her. Well, there was never a 4th date because it was too rigid for me.
Right.
I thought if that's the way you think, and if you are following your old cultural rules, you and me are not gonna get along.
Right.
I didn't say that to her, but I just that was the reality.
Yeah.
That was the reality, you know. So, touching as early as possible, teasing, being playful with her, playing games, you know, anything. Try not to be too just dry about in your conversations.
Yeah.
Try and make it into a game, make it into anything that you can do to make it kind of playful, fun, and teasing.
Yeah,
Takes it away from that.
I always tell guys, think about like the energy and just kind of the vibe that you have when you're being intimate with a woman, and that's more or less the kind of vibe and the kind of mindset that you should have when you're talking to her.
Right.
On a date, certainly on a date, or if you're having a conversation with her, there should always be that subtext that this is sexual.
Right.
This is a man-woman thing. This is a masculine-feminine thing.
Yeah.
If you're talking to her the way you talk to your mom or the way you talk to your brother, of course it's not going to be
if you're giving your resume or if you're getting caught up in these very dry conversations. I think that early on, like I didn't used to do this, but now I always make it a point during the first approach. It's very, very simple, but it makes it really clear. I'll just comment. I'll just say, wow, you have really pretty eyes, or wow, you have an amazing mouth, or something about your energy that's really sexy.
Yeah.
You can say that. If you don't say it, obviously you got to say it with the right tone. That makes it really clear, sort of sets it on the right path.
And it's not difficult, it's simple, like you said.
It is very simple.
It's not like some complicated routine or something. It's just, hey, I think...
You get caught up in these conversations, that are so boring, where you're just trading information and you forget that you're sitting next to this really hot girl, or across from her. She's, it's like a girl that you would really like to touch, that you want to basically be naked with right now.
Right.
You forget about that. You get caught up in these very dry information sharing conversations because it's safe.
Yeah.
And you you can just stop. You can be in mid-conversation and you can say, stop and say, you know what I just noticed? Wow, you have this certain way when you smile. You're like, you got this dimple here. What's up with that? It's like, wow, can I,
Yeah.
It's like you can just shift it just that quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do not allow yourself to get caught up in these extended, just dry information sharing conversations.
Yeah, even saying something that's kind of crazy or off the wall,
right?
Anything is better than
anything is better
than treating it like a job interview.
Oh, Yeah, I mean, if you're sitting in a place and it's falling into that, and you've both been stuck in your chairs, just grab her by the hand and take her, come here, I want to show you. Just take her over to the window. Just walk around the place. Oh, I just wanted to see the rest of the place. I want to,
Dictating the circumstances rather than letting the circumstances dictate to you.
That's right.
Sometimes just changing venues changes everything.
Right.
Sometimes you say, you know what? I don't like this place. It's kind of boring. Let's go to the next place. You know?
You got to be willing to do that. And I've been on dates where just get stuck for some reason. You get stuck and feeling like you can't do that. Like there's some weird set of rules you're following all of a sudden. They're not your rules, but you just find yourself following these rules, and at the end then you're like, wow, I just spent $50 or $100, a couple of drinks, and and it sucked. It's like, what happened?
Yeah.
It's because you weren't setting the tone. You weren't. You were allowing things to go down a certain path.
The power really is in your hands.
Yeah.
As the guy, it's your prerogative to set the tone.
Yeah.
You're the one inviting her out. You're the one who approached her. And fundamentally, you're a man and she's a woman. So
you got to get also a little bit comfortable with just taking a few risks.
Yeah.
It should be well calibrated risks. But even a risk that's not well calibrated is better than just a really dry, boring day.
Yeah. Better to go out in a blaze of glory.
Absolutely. Go down in a blaze of glory rather than just have it peter out and she thinks you're the most boring guy on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
You do not want that.
Right. Absolutely. We talked earlier about just approaching women, just getting out there and talking to girls, with no specific, even if you don't have any skills or whatever. Realistically, for the typical guy, figure average job, average income, average looks, normal guy, decent guy, whatever. He's interested in meeting some girls, going out on some dates, probably, getting laid here or there. Is it going to require a lot of effort on his part? Is it going to require him to do a lot of approaching in order to get, some decent results?
I would say that relative to what most guys do, probably it does, because most guys do almost no approaching, if any at all. So at first it's going to feel like effort. Okay, at first it is going to feel like effort, but it can be a very short learning curve. You could find if you, and particularly it helps, I would say for most guys, if you're not doing much approaching, I would say you really need some sort of a community or some sort of a mentor to help you with that. It's so much easier. Even now, it's for me, if I go out with a couple of guys, I find my level of commitment is much stronger, my energy is better, my results are better. So I would say if you're a guy who's not doing much approaching, I would say first get with a group of guys or with another guy or with a coach that can get you going.
Yeah.
I would say that's number one, because if you haven't been doing it, you probably aren't just going to wake up tomorrow morning and start doing 5 approaches a day. It's probably not going to happen. You could, but probably what's going to happen is you're going to wake up, if you do it tomorrow, then you're going to wake up on Thursday, I don't feel like it.
Right.
And then you're going to feel like, well, that was history. That was a failed.
Or that was just a crazy weekend.
Yeah.
And now it's back to reality.
Yeah, I mean, guys have all kinds of excuses why they can't. The fact is, the average approach, good solid approach you can do in 5 or 10 minutes. That's enough so that you should be able to get a good solid phone number out of that, or possibly even an instant date. I've gotten phone numbers from 23rd Street to 42nd Street on the subway. 3 or 4 stops on the subway I've gotten phone numbers.
Right.
And it's not because I'm amazing at it, but it is because I've gotten comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So I've sort of hit the ground running. I'm talking to a girl I already know her when we're talking because there's a comfort level there.
Right. Internally, you feel comfortable,
yes.
And then as you approach her, she notices that, she senses
right
that, so she becomes. But even if she's a little shy or nervous, just the fact that you're comfortable with it and
right.
You're owning the situation makes a huge difference. And eventually she warms up and she's like, okay, I was a little nervous at first, but wow, this guy really, is relaxed.
Yeah, it also makes you stand out. It also makes, there aren't that many guys that will do that have that ability. And you also sort of give her a little taste of what it would be like if you guys were on a date. Oh, it's cool. It's going to be comfortable. No stress, no weirdness, no awkward pauses, no strange looks, it feels good. Feels very natural.
Yeah.
So you're giving her a little taste of what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
So she's a lot more likely. But to get to that comfort level, you really do have to be consistent. That is the name of the game. You have to be consistent so that if not every single day, every week, particularly if you're just starting, you've got to be doing really 5-10 approaches a week, I would say. Until you're at a point where it's just a part of your normal lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, in my case, when I was improving at the beginner stage, I wasn't just talking to girls. I was talking to guys. I was talking to everybody. I was just trying to be social.
Right.
I was just trying to improve my social skills.
Right.
Because I knew that I was uncomfortable and I was very shy, just talking to strangers in general. So any experience that I could have, I knew would be beneficial.
It's true.
Well,
that's great if you can. I mean, the reality is that if you're doing it in that way, that really is the right way to do it. And that's really what a really cool girl is going to want. She wants a guy that doesn't know just how to talk to her. You walk into a social situation with her friends. You're at some event. You're not going to be this guy that shrinks if the situation isn't just right.
Right.
You ultimately, you don't want to be too narrow in terms of your skill set. At first, it's okay because you've got to start. Really, it's best to start with what's a little easier for you. Like some guys, it's a little easier. Day game is a little easier. Some guys being in a bar is easier. So that's where you should start, with what's easiest. But ultimately, you do want a fairly broad skill set, or else it's going to come back and bite you. Because if you do end up with some really cool girl who is very adept and very social, if you can't match her, she's going to lose interest.
Yeah. And matching her, being social in your own way.
Right. That's right.
Like not playing by somebody else's rules. This is something I talk a lot about. Not trying to be something that you're not, or trying to be fake or something. Right. It's just kind of like bringing out your best qualities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't. It's like conversation. I mean, it's an art, but it's also something that you don't have to have a lot of technology behind it, but you do have to have a lot of experience. You've got to throw yourself into situations, and you've got to learn to think creatively and respond appropriately to what's going on in that situation. That's conversation.
Yeah. Great points. What's the future of dating in New York City? As you've had a lot of experience, you've seen a lot of changes.
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, I think this whole trend towards, it's interesting because it's kind of, in a sense, it's polarized because you've got a much more intensive interest in really what would be considered very old school. Because what is pickup after all? We're not using our phones, the internet, or technology. We're just out here in the physical world. We see a girl that we think is hot, we walk up, we say something.
Yeah.
So that's very old school. Okay, so you've got that going on as people are hungering for that kind of contact. Okay.
Real human contact.
Real human contact and the ability, because what's happening is we're all losing that ability. We're spending too much time in front of our screens.
Yeah.
And so it intensifies interest with certain people that want to be able to function just like human beings out in the world, minus our devices.
Yeah.
Right? So there's that. But then, of course, there is using the technology. I mean, now there's apps that you join, and you're in the app, and it's showing you who else is in your area. And you can message that person, they're in the same app, and their picture comes up, their profile comes up, and they're there. they're like 50 yards away from you,
Right.
and you can message them, and I mean that's kind of crazy. So I think the future is that you've got both extremes developing. A lot of interest in the technology around meeting women, and then there's also intensified interest in the no technology approach.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you can be the guy that's comfortable in both arenas, which is very powerful.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think that a lot of the online dating stuff it works great for people that know how to use it, and they know how to present themselves well within that medium.
Right.
But I'm not sure if that's really the majority of people, male or female.
Right.
Maybe if you're not the best looking guy, or if you don't know how to write a profile very well,
Yeah, online dating, it seems kind of easy and convenient, but if you really get into it, it turns out it's extremely time consuming. Extremely time consuming because, you're just spending all this time on the internet to end up with a few dates where you're meeting a girl for a drink or whatever. All right, so you have the date, but you haven't met her yet. So what are the odds? First of all, what are the odds the picture's going to be accurate? Even if the picture's accurate, maybe you'll know within 5 seconds you don't really click with this girl, or she feels that about you. So it's really very time intensive, I find. Wait.
Ironically, if you can just do normal approaches,
Yeah.
have conversations, it might actually be easier and less time consuming to do that than to do this online stuff.
I think so. I mean, I think it is. It's just because there it is. You've gotten about 90% of the information that you need just by having a 5-minute conversation with someone.
Right.
Whereas, what you had to do in that same person on the internet, you had to go probably through 500 profiles and, countless emails and dates and missed dates and rescheduled dates. And finally you have the date and you're like, oh, she doesn't look like the picture. So
Right.
To me, online dating, I mean, I've had some success with it, but it's time intensive.
Yeah.
It can be it's its own set of frustrations for sure.
Final thoughts for the men of the world out there?
Just don't wait. I always tell, I do coaching in a very informal way, not as serious as you just said, but I just do it more for fun. But I tell guys, there's one thing, one rule to impose upon yourself, and that's non-hesitation. Non-hesitation. It's a huge amount of power in doing the things you want to do, not holding back, and not procrastinating on it. You see a girl you want to talk to, bam, let's do it. So I would say this is something you're thinking about, and of course we all are thinking about it. You just got to move on it. You got to move on it. It's my number one suggestion.
Awesome. Thank you very much, DJ Aim.
You got it.
All right.
Good to talk with you, Justin.
Take care.